Hello and welcome to the Sorare Data Show. I am Andrew Laird. You can find me as Lairdinho on Sorare. Today to talk about all of our new plans for the new season, new European season. Even if they're not even new plans, maybe nothing changed. Maybe everything changed. Who knows? All depends on the Sorare manager, and we'll see. Thank you to everybody for coming in. Alex, first on the podium. Into Rosie said, "Is this how the podium thing works? I certainly wouldn't know from Sorare." And Bob Franklin, obviously on the podium, but this isn't the only podium for Bob. Was able to hold on to first and all-star rare for my first ever win and first rare podium, unless I get opted out at the last second. Hopefully that does not happen. Bob, congratulations, not just for your stream podium, but for your So Rare one. That's awesome. Sorry to all the managers with Leonardo, whose game was postponed due to fog. And there were a few people that could have overtaken Bob with a good game because they were playing the last place team, but it happens. Sometimes you just lose a game from the fog. Toby, what's up? Scosmo is here. Box season. It is, maybe. Ryan Walter listening while I drive to the beach. That's fun. That is definitely fun. JVIC, 19 waiting and only 2 likes. Yeah, if you guys want to like the stream now, before I say anything of any substance, as if there's any substance to this show, please like the video. Always appreciate it. Lairdinho, first one live in a while. Welcome back. Rasko Masaki with apparently a penguin blue waving tear. Man, they got to do something with this so we can see some emojis here. Anyway, Rel, what's up? Malky, thanks for coming in. Stefan. Vice said, had this on another tab and got jump scared when the music started. Yeah, well, let's go. Let's go. Godzilla afternoon. Vita's in the house. What's Alex Wilson got to say? All I know is I don't know what all of this means, but Denmark is so close to being back. So close, Alex. So close. Enion said, I might have gotten a 2 Bundesliga Classic team after the announcement, which is fun. Toby said, when Nicola on the show, he was doing the podcast tour, it said. They did say that. They did say that. Interrose, he said, is it possible to stream on Spotify? Makes it easier when I'm out walking compared to having YouTube open and praying I don't pocket close the show. I don't think so. I don't think so. We are also on Twitch. I don't know if Twitch will close on the screen closing. I kind of assume, but I don't know. But if you want to try that, go right ahead. Twitch.tv/Sorare Data Show. That's where Godzilla is watching from. So thank you very much. Lairdinho, add fog to the earthquakes and tsunamis that affect Sorare. Yeah. Matthew, when button? Yeah, that's a big question, Matthew. We'll see. We'll see. Raso Misaki said you can lock your phone with Twitch. There we go. There we go. Oh, yeah. Vita said, I'd watch on Twitter, but you need to be verified to comment. Really? That's dumb, but I get it. Toby said, if he does come on, Keith needs to just be there just to ask him when button and then leave. Yeah, that's a good one. I don't know. Full transparency, I have nothing planned currently with any of the Sorare people in terms of coming on to talk about what the announcement was all about. I think maybe they'll start doing the rounds after everyone's had time to like really digest it, not just like yesterday's and everybody's kind of like immediate reactions to it. And there's still plenty of information to come. We still need to find out the box percentages, meaning like what you'll win in boxes and what the percentages are that you'll do that. Lots of special weekly information. There've been a lot of people who have been showing some concern that they're going to lose utility from their cards because they don't necessarily know if the special weeklies are going to handle the situations that they see themselves coming into. The big one that I've seen is Leagues Cup. And they said specifically in Discord, I think it was, somebody showed me a screenshot. I'm not in the main Sorare General Discord, but I believe they said there will be no individual competitions for Leagues Cup, which I assume means they will have some sort of special weeklies, not even necessarily Leagues Cup specific. In fact, probably not. But they were like, oh, yeah, there'll be all-star and cap modes, which makes me think that at least for special weeklies, that's what they're going to try to do. I don't love that answer personally because I don't think that they realize the practicality from the sorare manager standpoint of what that entails. And so this is the concern, that for people who have a lot of like MLS or Liga MX cards, or people like me, Andy Black, particularly, who have like a lot of MLS and Liga MX cards, those cards are ineligible during the Leagues Cup, 2 leagues, 1 cup, and for Challenger and Contender, respectively. And so this solution of like, oh yeah, you can play them in at least until Cap Modes and All-Star disappear. The tournament starts, I think, in 2 weeks and goes until the end of August. At some point, All-Star and the Cap Modes as regular competitions will disappear. I think it's in the middle of August. And so maybe we have like 2 weeks worth of game weeks, 4 game weeks, where Leagues Cup is going on. There's playoffs too, I think, or knockout, whatever. I don't remember what they do, but there's more. And the quick response of like, oh yeah, like there'll be All-Star and Cap Modes, and then after that, maybe is All-Star and Cap Modes for like as special weeklies. The problem is that there will be way more cards to be played than special weeklies that can be played. And the other kind of negative is people who tried to buy like the best cards for Challenger or Contender from MLS, and there's probably no one in Liga MX other than Reynoso, that you'd want to play, and they're like, yeah, just go use them in Cap 250. I think that 250 is like one of the numbers that they like threw out as like possibilities. And it's like, if my cards don't fit, like that's not my fault. It's you guys are now taking the utility away. And so I really hope, and surely there will be like a multi-entry and All-Star. I think they actually said for midweeks, but like they do play Leagues Cup on the weekends. So I don't know how that's going to happen, but I know that the initial feeling from people who have those cards is super negative. It's not like, oh, like there's not a lot of trust that they'll get it right. And I think there's like losing card utility because of contests that are available is like the and that you've played for years, and now there's like this special competition, and you're like, yeah, you can play an All-Star, and you're like, all right, well, I have 5 MLS goalkeepers this week. Where do I play those? Because they're playing Leagues Cup. And they're like, well, you can play 2 an All-Star. And you're like, yeah, and what else? Particularly because, and I don't know if they're doing this, maybe this is their solution. We've never been able to play down scarcities in All-Star or Cap Modes. And so if they're like, oh, you can play your other rare goalkeepers in limited, like that's slightly better. It's also kind of like, it's like a punch in the gut instead of a punch in the nuts. So however you want to take that. Anyway, Inda Rosie says, I can't lock my phone on Twitch either, but I do appreciate you quickly going over to Twitch, finding this stream, and then commenting. Dodzilla says, I hope Black doesn't come back on. He said Rodri was the best player for any stack. Yeah, I bought him. It was PSU who said that, not Andy. Andy might have said it also, but Lairdinho, I've been enjoying everyone's spreadsheets to see how people look at their galleries. That is a good one. That's not even where I thought you were going with that, Ryan, but somebody remind me about spreadsheets after this. Godzilla, although if it helps my Newcastle stack, he may get props. There you go. I imagine the special weeklies will be a pain for sorare data too. So they're not easy. I'll put it that way. Toby said Leagues Cup would have just been so easy to make an exclusive special weekly for. So maybe we all kind of like misunderstood the response, that there isn't going to be like some month-long kind of like what we're just having right now with these like this with Copa and the Euro, that there's not going to be like something like that, but maybe there will be just a weekly, like a game weekly Leagues Cup contest. But I don't know. The 2 leagues, 1 cup is not, I didn't come up with that. I give full credit to Fripp, Sorare USA, but I don't even know if he came up with it. And Vita, the reference is apparently 20 years old, and it's a terrible reference. So just careful when you do search for it. Lairdinho, I wonder how much of there seemingly being no Leagues Cup is because they hadn't planned ahead with rewards where next season it will be built in. Like League Cup has already happened. Like we knew this was happening the whole year. So not planning for it is not okay. Cannonier Kelly? I don't know. What is Leagues Cup? Leagues Cup is a competition between MLS, Major League Soccer, and Liga MX in the middle of their seasons. It's like kind of a big tournament where they play each other. There's a group stage and there's some playoffs or knockout rounds. I don't remember. But basically, because it's a intra-league competition, it doesn't fall under the new guidelines of champion, challenger, or contender. So we need another place for those to play. It's not like a domestic cup, but it's kind of like that. I don't even know how to describe it. It's interesting. Toby said, "Yeah, I'll have more keepers than I can play." Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. See, this is what happened. I fall back on the chat, and you guys answered it for me. The Leagues Cup groups are 3 teams, so somebody is always on a bye. Scheduling specialist weeklies would be a nightmare, but their solution feels awful. Chris said, "No contender open during internationals for my La Liga 2 lineups now." So that was another concern that I heard people talk about, and I'm confident that they will have a solution to allow you to play your cards. I don't know what that solution is. The least creative option is All-Star, and that they just open like a global All-Star competition for those game weeks. You'll probably need multi-entry because some people have multiple, La Liga 2 goalkeepers. But that is a big one. And I do think that also kind of solved not solved, but that was one of the big things that somebody brought up in terms of if you don't submit a lineup, you'll get relegated. And they were like, oh, what happens during international breaks when contender is open because La Liga 2 has games? But they said you do not get relegated for that. So I don't know. But yeah, I'm confident that they will. I realize how dumb this sounds, that I'm confident they will find a place so your cards have utility after just saying I'm not that confident about Leagues Cup. But I hope it's there. Malky said maybe they have some licensing issues. North American Challenge Invitational Special Weekly. That is phenomenal. Kylo said, why are they constantly running out of rewards? Season long. Okay, fine, long time to plan. But then misallocating Copa rewards in a month-long tournament is so worrying. Did they misallocate? Is it concern because a lot of the MLS cards are high in the mints now? Like, I think one of the things that we're not used to is Sorare fully minting players. Like, it just doesn't happen that often. And I think we're gonna start having that now. And part of it is just when we get to this point of the season where it looks like we're running out of cards, but like theoretically it'll last. But I don't know. I think they also will just basically find a way to get more creative in terms of reward distribution. Like they might have a Leagues Cup competition where you win jerseys or just boxes or something instead of actually cards. Rasko Masaki, Leagues Cup was always just extra utility. Users are very fortunate they covered it in the first place. So yes, but now that they've covered it, they have to deal with it. Like there's no this isn't extra anymore. This is what the coverage is. So I agree that we were lucky to get it, but now that we have it, you need to do something for it. You can't just ignore it. Malky said no mention of Liga MX and the contender license clubs yesterday, although they were probably focusing on Europe only. Yeah, I think they said a few times it was they made it very clear that it was just Europe. Although the Liga MX situation is a bit of a shit show right now, which is frustrating for somebody like me who buys Liga MX cards and plays them because they are literally still selling and rewarding cards. The season has started, so they have 0% XP if you buy a new card. It's actually to the point, normally, if you buy a new card, you get your 5% and you get your extra collection bonuses, and while you still get that, like extra points for collection bonus, you still get that, but you're literally buying a 0% card now, whereas all the secondary market cards actually have higher XP because they have 1% or 2%. So it's a weird, like League MX is in a very weird situation right now. And it's also not all of the teams. We only have like a handful of Liga MX teams, but those licenses seem to go on the European schedule. Like I think a lot of the Liga MX clubs now launch in like October, or last year launched in October, which is not helpful when the season starts in July. Yeah, 20 years ago was the not the 2 leagues, 1 cup joke, but that's where it came from. I was still in high school. I was not. Just Heat 14. That's a fun name. It just feels like MLS in general was forgotten about this summer with everything else going on. Not even a mention about All-Star Game this year. I don't disagree with you, but I do think that some of it is because of Euros. Like 2 years ago during the World Cup, we didn't have a summer World Cup. And so it was like easier to focus on MLS. But I think if their World Cup was going on, we wouldn't have thought about it at all. Rasko Masaki, it's a Dos Mestic Cup. That's a really good one. Toby said, I feel like they could have just let Leagues Cup fall under Challenger. I think that would have been well received by most of SoRare. Well, it's Challenger and Contender because Liga MX is in Contender. But so you say you think it would be well received, but it actually gets a bit frustrating because now it's like, all right, well, why don't you just do that for Champions League? When you have a champion club, like the precedent it sets gets ugly very quickly. And they seem to be very, very, very adamant that the main competitions are for domestic league games and everything else will be handled by special weeklies. Ben said, I probably missed you talking about it because I've been away, but what's happening with the button? I did not talk about it. Tangvik error led to goal after 12 minutes. This dude is unbelievable. My gosh. Carol said, the funny thing is Leagues Cup was designed to imitate the 2026 World Cup schedule, 16 groups of 3 teams. Meanwhile, FIFA changed it to 12 groups of 4 and Leagues Cup stayed as is. Well, there are not enough teams to do it, right? 36. I don't know. Oh, I guess they have just enough. Yeah. I don't know. Hilo said no one in one of the Discord channels, I think it was Paul, who literally said they mismanaged the Copa rewards. Oh, I didn't realize that. Mismanaged how? That they were just giving out the wrong ones? Too many of the same guys? Charlie said they're running out of cards, and I think that's a good thing. There's only a week or two until the 2024-25 cards come out. So, Charlie, it's actually not about those cards that people are concerned about. It's that like the last Lionel Messi rare card was the last auction was 76 of 100. Like for this current season, and MLS like playoffs, like MLS Cup final is in December, and we're in July. And they play, I mean, obviously the playoffs whittles down a lot, but we have like Leagues Cup. And again, who knows what they're going to do that. But there's still a lot of the regular season left. And the fact that they're already 3/4 of the way through minting Messi, that's a problem. Or it feels like it's a problem. Misaki said, on stuff like regular international breaks, we have to deal with just entering into globals. I don't see it any different, really. So like that's what I mean. Yeah. Ben said, are Argentina cards still in season after the summer break? I believe so. I believe those are like calendar year cards. Like those are 2024 cards. They're not 23-24. So 24 is all of that. King from South Africa, how do I win a sorare data membership? I don't know. You want to win one? Hit me up on Discord if you're on it, and you win. How about that? Charlie said the All-Star Game is not a real fixture. May as well start covering charity games. So they don't like score the All-Star game, but they at least like make a deal of it, and you can win like, you can win like tickets to it. And so it is weird that they've like completely ignored it. Toby said, yeah, I mean, they could have let Liga MX cards act like challenger cards in Leagues Cup games. I think that's like super dangerous. And I'm guessing they don't even have the tech to do it. Jesse said, MLS card prices are about to crash so bad. Combine the European hype with no utility for a month. Will be a great time to buy, though. It's not that they have no utility. Like, I'm convinced they will have utility. But also, they fall this time of year all the time. Because for the first part of that, people sell them in order to get into the European cards. Yeah, Bob said K-League has the same problem, that their rare mints are in the 70s and 80s already. Godzilla, how many games are left in MLS roughly? Let's see. So they played like 20. I was going to say they played 23 games, but some like Columbus has played 20. So they have anywhere between like 10 and 14 games left, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's MLS games. All of them will have at least, 2 or 3 Leagues Cup games. And so it's a lot. Halogen says a good thing that they're minting out, but it gets tricky with Essence in the mix. Yeah, that's like the that's Peter Stoyanov's like biggest concern, is that they're going to give out too much Essence, and then they're going to have to like reduce card rewards because so many people are getting Essence, and then just crafting cards over and over and over. Excuse me. Halogen said, how do I win Challenger in season? You create a Challenger lineup that has at least 4 in-season cards, and you score more than everyone else in your division. Vice, I don't know how to win a Lamborghini. Rosie, back on YouTube, said Argentina League is calendar year. I got an in-season rare lineup for the first time, and GLP are playing midweek, first game week back. My expectation is that they're good until the end of the year. Yeah. Ben said, I just bought Rosario and GLP limited in-season stacks for like 15 pounds each to get some of the top 50% Essence and credits. I was fully focused on Classic before the announcement. So I think that's one of the things that I think changed some people's opinions from the announcement, because the way that I was looking at it, and I take that back. I was going to say I feel the same way, but I actually don't. My expectation was to only play Classic. I currently play Contender Rare in season with no intention of playing Champion in season or Challenger even. And part of that was competing for cash. Part of the reason is I didn't see myself buying new season cards early. So it was kind of like, if I'm not going to buy new season cards early, do I even need to plan to buy them? Because hopefully my Classic cards will get some wins, and maybe the cards that I win lead me to which in-season cards I want to buy. And so the update where like you can win Essence or credits in boxes for in-season did change it a little bit. And I think it was a really smart play by SoRare, because there were enough people who were like, I think I'll just play Classic because of the boxes. And the boxes are really fun. Like, the boxes are probably the most fun part of SoRare right now, because not everybody wins rewards. And so you still get this like dopamine rush of like, what's in this box? And then eventually you just get a level up. But, there's a little bit where you're like, maybe there's something cool in there. And now they're kind of moving that to Essence, where you still don't really know what you're getting until the end. And so Classic was looking really attractive. And from a business standpoint, SoRare can't have that. They need to sell cards. And so what's the easiest way to make in-season more attractive again? And it's simply just offer what you're doing in Classic, and it's cash. And so, yeah, that's what it is. I think the reactions to the prize pools are kind of interesting to me. And I think Andy, I don't know if it was Andy or Quinny brought it up on yesterday's stream when we were kind of going through everything, that like they announced the prize pools, and I'll make the argument that the numbers don't really matter on the surface. And like I was saying, that like the $15 million, it's like, yeah, you can like, that's the prize pool, but like nobody's winning $1 million, let alone 15 million. So it's kind of like this odd number to just like, not odd, but I mean, it's literally an even number. But like, I get it why they do that. Big numbers attract people's attention, and so they go to it. But if the number was like 12 million or 10 million or 14 million or 30 million, I'm not sure that not that it wouldn't have mattered, but ultimately, like, we know that's not how much we're winning. And so, and there are so many numbers after that. Like when you go in, I may as well just pull it up for you guys so that we can all just see what I'm talking about here. But like when you go into the graphics, it's like, okay, nobody's going in being like, okay, if I finish between 21st and 30th 3 times in Division 1 limited in-season Premier League, and I finish, top 10 in Division 2 on my way to division, like nobody's doing this to like figure out how much they are going to win over the course of a season. So it's really difficult. Like you can do an EV calculation of like, if I spend $300 making enough, a gallery for limited in-season Prem, and I win first place, then like, yeah, it's paid off. Like obviously you win, but winning is really hard. And so you're going to have to finish in these lower spots like a few times. But even that, like projecting that is it's impossible. Like you can try, like obviously you can project, but like getting anything that's like accurate now, July 12th, is not, it's just not useful. And so all of these numbers are like really helpful. But what the point that, and then again, I don't remember if it was Andy or Quinny, but they were like, it's less about the numbers themselves and more about how they compare to the others. So it's one of these, if you were somebody who's like, I'm definitely going to play contender, and something, there was something in the numbers that were like, oh, contender is actually significantly worse than the others. And you're just like, maybe it's not worth it. I'll go play Challenger. I'll go play Bundesliga or something like that. And it just didn't feel like there was much of that going on. There wasn't anybody who was like, yeah, I was going to play in-season contender, but maybe I'll play in-season Bundesliga instead, or whatever it is. Maybe they'll expand out from that. But the biggest issue that I saw, and like, I don't talk to everybody. I do talk to enough people who play very different levels of this game. And I play different levels. I play rare, probably the most. I put the most effort into rare. I also play super rare and would love to have better super rares, but I don't. And I kind of play limited. I think I will play limited much more than I do now. And so the biggest reaction that I've seen, like literally the most like passionate, are those who play super rare and unique. And I don't talk to a lot of people who play uniques, and I feel really uncomfortable is not the right word, but I feel ignorant enough. Like I don't know enough about the uniques to really speak intelligently about it. And so I kind of I defer opinions on uniques and the gameplay and the rewards to other people. And it's never a point like, I don't strive to get to uniques anymore. The only time that I did really think about uniques was for the threshold, and I never made the jump. But I do have my own opinions on super rares, and I talk to people who have super rares. And I apologize for those of you who are like listening or watching and don't play super rare and don't care about it. But if you'll, humor me for a little bit, the super rare stuff is like depressing. And as someone who, like, I play super rare despite despite common sense. That for years, the reason you bought super rares was so you could win better rares. It was never really to win super rares. And so they kind of changed that a little bit. The threshold, like introducing the threshold in super rare, was like by far the best thing that ever happened to super rares. And it did feel like very quickly they were like, we fucked up from a business standpoint. But everybody got really excited about super rares, and maybe they were giving away too much money. I don't even know. But the destruction of thresholds, basically, like weekly thresholds, really hit super rares because there was, and it happened after people got really excited to buy super rares. And so the issue basically became that super rares offered really kind of poor prizes overall. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that they don't have like a huge supply of rewards to give away. Like, I get that. Obviously, they can only reward like 4 of any player over the course of an entire season. And so sorry for that was Cosmo made that joke first. If anybody hasn't seen that, I'll point that out too, just because it's absurd. But anyway, I'm not going to harp on this, but it just feels like there's very little reason to play super rare now. And that's disappointing because I've talked about it with Gator Guy on streams too. Just like when we started playing super rare, it feels like you really like went up a level on so rare, and you were like really competing with like the big people, and winning there was like really exciting because you don't win super rares that often. I mean, some people do, and they have gigantic galleries, but the new prize pools, and frankly, the old prize pools were pretty bad for super rare, particularly in season. And the biggest reason that, like, literally the biggest reason is you can't pay for your super rares with a victory. That if you finish first place in limited or rare, you can pay off all of the cards you bought to compete there. And it's basically impossible in super rare. And because this is going to run counter to what a lot of people think. So Interrosie said, what is the difference in percentage of entrants paid per division in super rare, rare, and limited? Because like a lot of people like to harp on the fact that you need lower scores to win in super rare, which is true, than like rare and limited. The reason it's true though is because there are just less combinations of lineups, because there are just not as many cards. Like, it has nothing to do with like the number of people competing because of that they want to. It's that literally the population of cards is not big enough. And so naturally you're not going to have all of the lineup combinations that we see in limited or rare and then in super rare. And so because of that, scores are lower and everyone's like, oh, it's easier to win. The problem is it's definitely not, because a lot of the huge galleries have the elite super rares and you cannot get one. So now you're trying to compete at a low, basically you're hoping to get lucky every so often, which is still fine. But it's so hard to accumulate super rares, period. Then it's so hard to like compete for prizes. And then when you win, you still have to win like 4 more times in order to be able to get your money back. Like, that's the point of the game, is to win more than you've spent. And it's not an investment. It's just like, how do you know you're doing well in this game? You have more than what you started with. And with super rare, it's so much harder. And they've done nothing. They have done something. They've made it even worse. And like, the population of so rare managers who buy super rares is small. I get it. It's like, you're not going to make big plans to like make the super rare and unique people happy. But those people also spend a lot of money on this site, and completely dejecting them with these prize pools is like shocking. That's all I'm going to say on super rares, because I'm just like, Toby said, wouldn't one division help a lot with super rares though and make the prize pool deepish, or is there just not enough money or good cards? I think it's actually the opposite. Like there are not enough rewards, period. And I think Peter may have touched on that once, or maybe it was MPen. But like at some point, you can't have so many people competing in super rare because there's just not enough rewards, not enough card rewards. And so the solution is basically finding other ways to reward. And boxes, I don't know if that's enough. Cash worked. Like when people were going for the threshold, like that worked. People wanted to buy super rares. And this idea of, oh, we're going to change threshold. We don't want people just hitting a number and winning cash. We want them to like compete and get the best scores they can, and then we'll pay cash. And so they've taken that money and like distributed it to all the prize pools. And it doesn't work in super rare because it's the same couple people who keep winning all this stuff. And like PSU fans too, who like has a gigantic gallery. I don't know where he is like in terms of the biggest galleries on the platform, but he is here sitting with 534 limiteds, 992 rares, 535 super rares, and 98 uniques. And on a show that we did a few weeks ago, he said if he was going to start sorare today, he would never buy a super rare, and then certainly never buy a unique. This is somebody who has 250 ETH gallery, give or take. They're like, I would never buy super rares. What are we doing? All right, anyway. Just he said, my biggest mistake on sorare was trying to get into super rare right before the original transition was announced. Terrible timing. Agreed, that's terrible timing. Interrosi said, MPen put a thread out earlier saying that total cash is down from 21 million to 15 million, shows how much thresholds were costing them. There's no doubt that that they're paying less and that they were like just flushing money down in towards us that they didn't have. Like threshold was going to kill this game. So they had to stop. Like totally get it. Totally get it. Hilo, yes, he did win a unique Quentin Westberg. The weird reward. I didn't even know he was in Atlanta. So this is the problem, as Lairdinho says. People always play up to super rare in the hope they get fixed. The super rare hope is so funny. And I'm totally guilty of it. Like I still look to buy super rares. And it's just this like, surely they'll make them better, right? And you just keep buying. And then it's like the idea is if they make it better, then like, oh, people will want to buy my super rares now. And there's just very little they can do or that they've done. Skazmo said, why is the narrative around numbers and threshold always about reducing payouts as unsustainable instead of incentivizing increased revenues? Like I totally get what you're saying. And maybe we see that in the future, but they paid out so much in thresholds that I think that they needed a way to basically really pull back the amount that they were paying out so that it was at a sustainable level. And then maybe they increase it as revenues go up. John Galt, not a name I'm familiar with. So John, thanks for coming in. NBA is the proof that they won't do anything significant to make super rare or uniques best. I don't think that they that NBA is the proof of anything. But you're also not wrong. If anyone has super rare hope left, I've got 5 MLS super rares for sale. GWOMs, when are we going to get Skazmo on the pod would be a good one. Skazmo's been on, not actually in the live stream. I take that back. Skazmo has been on before. And I tried to get Skazmo on Tuesday show, Wednesday, because he came up with the topic and I showed it to him and he was like, "Oh, I'm out then." And I was like, because I was going to ask him. He doesn't know that actually. But you're right. We should have Scosmo on, but Scosmo needs to settle down and take a breath before he comes on. But I agree. He would be great to have on. Lairdinho, it feels more like the case of them trying to focus on limited and rare and haven't even really looked into super rare issues yet. So I do wonder if that's the case. Obviously, they are heavily focused on rare and limited because that's where a vast majority of their players are. So I do wonder how much effort they put into super rare and uniques. And like, obviously there has to be some, they had to come up with the numbers, but I don't know if they fully understand them yet, which is a bit frustrating because part of it is that none of them can play super rares. They, like, so rare employees are allowed to play, but they can only play limited and rare. Excuse me. So like, maybe that's part of it. I don't know if any of them would buy enough super rares to even like recognize what the problems are. Which you would think would be like, oh, that's what they should do. Like if they started buying super rares and then they'd be like, wait, why am I doing this? Really what they should be doing is doing the math and figuring out if the super rare is worth it. And when they see that it's not, they're like, maybe we should fix this. But I don't, like, super rare and unique will never, ever, ever, ever be a priority over rare and limited. It will not happen. But that doesn't mean that they should just be totally ignored. And that's how they feel. Scosmo said a failing business that defaults to redundancies as the answer to balance the books rather than increasing revenue often fail as there's no long-term evolution plan to grow. So I don't think that it's like they're defaulting to a redundancy. I think that the threshold was like, I think it ended up being a significantly bigger risk than they ever anticipated, which you can fault them for. But they had to do something, and stopping that was the something. And now it's like, okay, now where do we grow from this? Because like, it's possible. And in all of our, like, what we all have to hope for is that this $15 million prize pool from now on is the smallest they'll ever have. And that from next year, it'll be 20 million. And the year after that, 50 million. And then we're on the moon and it doesn't matter. What up, Quinny? Good reminder, everybody, please like the stream. Sounds like a tough day for Sander Tangbik. Nanzo, how much of the 15 million is it possible for one person to win? That's all. That's what I need to know. Vita said, possible or doable? Just do possible. Like, I assume it's just if the possible is three podiums in every competition every game week. Now the problem is we don't know. So I guess that we don't know. We know what the prize pools look like when at least 75% of the teams are playing, but we also are literally in a period right now where that's not happening. And so I don't think you can actually like figure that out until we see, like, what does Challenger look like when there's no MLS? What does Challenger look like in the summer? What does Contender look like when there are no European leagues going on? And so I guess the answer is no, it's impossible. Lairdinho said, this feels like a full season of transition. It'll be this time next year before things fully settle. It's possible. Vita's trying to win $5,000 this season. Scosmo, thank you for that reminder. Let me get through these last three. Isn't it ironic that a company that hosts a strategy game lacks its own strategy? They may have a strategy. Like, us knowing what the strategy is, like, we don't need to know it. It would help, but we don't, like, it's like asking how much money they make. Like, well, we know how much money they make. We don't know how much money they're profiting. Different topic. But from Nicola's question, what do you want on the back of your cards? I don't need anything. Thoughts on Nicola's tweet reply to FPL? Any collaboration between SoRare and Fantasy Prem is cool. And it does seem like there are a good number of FPL accounts that played the Euro competitions that are like, this is actually pretty cool. And hopefully they stay. Yeah. Nope. Rub said, selling cards for a fraction of what they used to sell at must be hurting SoRare revenue more than the threshold did. I actually disagree. I mean, obviously they're both bad. But the threshold, like, there was never a point where the threshold like projected to be a sustainable model. Like, to be able to buy 10 cards, let's say, and yield from that infinitely, like, it's you can't do it. You can't do it. Detroit Bad Boy, soccer needs to take a page out of MLB's book. Prices have skyrocketed. So I think that's a totally different game, though. But I will say that the price stability of MLB is really interesting. I think part of it is that they have done a really good job of managing the number of cards on the market. And it's a much different task when you only have 30 teams to deal with instead of 358 or whatever they have right now. And so it's really impressive, actually. Yeah. I think the tough thing with MLB, is that not enough people play, but they do seem to have kind of a gameplay that can withstand more people, because they do. I mean, they're paying out like a decent amount of cash. Although somebody was like arguing with me on Twitter the other day that Rainmakers pays out so much more, and it was like, we're not talking about the same things here anymore. MLB feels like the best sport where prices have been controlled. They basically take months off, which football can't do. So, they're very different, and so it's Vice said, "Do you think they regret adding MLB and NBA?" I think there's probably some regret, but also I think that they're fine with it. The landscape at the time where they did it was very different than it is now, and I think that what they were very clear, like, early on, that they wanted to be like a what did they call it? A sports entertainment platform. Like, they want to be a very big platform that's not just football. And when licenses open up, like, you kind of have to take advantage. And so the timing, obviously, they had just gotten a boatload of money. Getting MLB and NBA, I think, is really important if you want to be more than just a football game. And they wanted to be more than just a football game. MLB is a tough one because it's so American. But like, basketball is like a very worldwide game now. And the NBA is obviously like the best league in the world. And so I think there is less regret than regret, if that makes sense. And plenty of people will disagree, like Jonathan here. Worst decision possible. I think there are plenty of people who would add that adding limiteds was worse than adding MLB and NBA, but it's a very tricky one. And like, there is something to the MLB game, but I'm just not sure what the market is yet. I'm not going to talk about MLB here. I keep saying I want to talk about MLB somewhere, and then my boss publicly flogged me for even suggesting it. But in private conversations, I might be breaking him down. Anyway, Kelly said, but that doesn't mean threshold is bad. Just tweak the numbers. Make people buy 100 cards. Do a threshold for sum total over more competitions. Increase the threshold to incentivize premium players. So the threshold now is just like what you're describing. Do it over more competitions or whatever. That's Essence. Essence is your threshold now. finish in the top 50% in season, finish in the top 25% in classic, win a box, get some essence, build up your essence, craft your card, sell it. There's your money. Nanzo said, Sorare always aimed for limited to be in the $20 price range. I think talk of sustainability is a red herring that they're happy for the community to perpetuate. Do you mean because sustainability is not a question at all, Nanzo, or because it means we're talking about something else? I think you are right that the limited price range, like limited was always supposed to be cheap. And the problem is that when they launched, there weren't that many cards, and so like we all ran to them. And there was a, what's the opposite of recession? Whatever it is. Everybody had money. We were like, yeah, let's buy some limits. I mean, we were spending like hundreds of dollars for limits of guys we'd never heard of. And at some point, anyone with like a right mind is like, do you realize how many limited cards there will be out there at some point? And we didn't care. We were like, oh, we're playing the game. We're winning. It's having a great time. But like limited was always, always, always the cheap way into the game. Still is. And that's not like talking down on limited, but like literally there are more of those. So they're supposed to be the cheapest ones. And that's the key. Toby said prices dropped long before the threshold was gone though. But like even moving from 205 and 250. So for those of you who are fairly new here, the threshold used to be in All-Star. If you scored 205 points, you won 0.01 ETH. And if you scored 250 points, you won 0.02 ETH. And you could use, there were no limiteds. It was all only rare. And you could use a common card. So people were buying 4 rares and winning between 0.01 and 205 points, including XP. And then they were like, man, we're giving out a lot. Oh, that's right. ETH like ran up. And they were like, we're giving out too much ETH. So they changed it. 0.01, or I'm sorry, the 205 was then $25 worth of ETH. And 250 points was $50 worth of ETH. You won $25 for scoring 205 points with 4 rare cards and a common. Now the common had a 50% point hit, so I'll let you. Wasn't that easy. But you look at that and you're like, of course this can't continue. And then when they changed it to cap 240, whereas like you had to stay under the 240 cap, but as long as you hit, what was it, 270, 280, whatever the points were, it was like you win your money. And it wasn't like that started the price drop. And again, price drop, saying like prices drop because of threshold, like that's not, the two things had absolutely nothing to do with each other until they basically canned it for super rare. And that super rares died after that. Threshold died. Anyway, Johnny said women's football might just save Sorare in a year or two. Probably. Lairdinho said NFL will be great for Sorare. Only 4 to 5 months of games, short career, so a high turnover of cards, etc. I think it works. It probably works for Rainmakers. I'm pretty sure the NFL like NFT deal with Rainmakers is exclusive, which is, I assume the NBA and MLB ones are because Sorare have them. If they weren't, surely DraftKings would have them, have like NBA and MLB by now. Scosmo said, do we know what the revenue was for the last comparative period, August through June? How does it look versus the 15 million? I'm aware there are so many more costs. Just curious. I don't really know. Oh, Jonathan was saying the worst possible decision was second division Europe. So it is kind of funny because like second division Europe was the solution that limiteds were supposed to, second division Europe was the solution that limiteds were supposed to solve. But they didn't have second division Europe at the time. And so basically like goalies were so expensive because there just weren't that many of them. And they were like, all right, here's a new scarcity. When really they could have just like flooded with a bunch of new leagues. And it's like, oh, now we have goalies everywhere. Kelly said thresholds are more explicit, which is a big deal in luring new players. So the problem is that the lure is like, hey, this is easy money, come win it. And that's not like you can't do a business model like that. Scosmo said if the limited target was to be the cheap entry while retaining premium product on higher scarcities, then we shouldn't be skewing rewards so highly towards the lower scarcities. Put the money at the top. I think you're right, but also where they are in the life cycle of their company being like fairly new, and I know it's been like years, but like fairly new of people knowing what So Rare is, that they need to get as many people in now. Like user acquisition doesn't happen because you're like, look what you can win with super rares that cost hundreds and thousands of dollars. Like you need a way for people to get in. And limited and rare is that. Payne said it does seem like, sorry, my phone is buzzing here. It does seem like Sora has moved away from many licensed leagues as possible. Once they got the main ones, it seems they're realizing that they only ever wanted those. Well, like, I think if So Rare were able to get the license, like, we're absolutely able to get the licenses they wanted right away, then yeah, you never do Austria, Scotland. You probably don't even do Belgium. Maybe you do the Netherlands, but like you obviously do your top 5. And maybe MLS because like the US market is big. Like how far do you really go? Like you don't really need a game that, like you don't need to start a game to try to attract as many people as possible and be like, hey, we have the Danish Superliga. Like I don't know how many people that's drawing in. I was going to leave, but then they introduced Midtjylland, and so I decided to stay. But it's like, yeah, I think you're absolutely right that you basically have to get as many as you can, as long as you don't have the big ones. And then once you have the big ones, you're kind of like, we can let these other ones go. And I don't think they're going to do that, but you can't really fault them for doing it either. I mean, we obviously would be furious because we have all these cards, but like, yeah. Malky said, it would be interesting to know what points are needed to get the top 25 or 50% in each competition. He's looking for Peter Stoyanov to handle that. Peter's going to be on the show with me Monday. Yeah. So ask away. Lairdinho, don't think they will care if a 10-season-old Mbappe is almost worthless as long as the in-season one at that time keeps a good value. I mean, a 10-year-old season Mbappe might be like collectible. I'm just kidding. Scosmo said the problem is losing sight of what the rest of the platform was supposed to be and bundling everything under the same strategy, not treating scarcities individually. I think you still want some continuity between the scarcities, though. Like, I don't think you want to treat them completely differently, mostly because you need to compare them to find out if you want to go to the next one. And maybe when they start fully minting everything, and we're still so far away from fully minting limiteds, I don't think people realize what are they at 3/4 maybe of the limiteds, and at like most, I'm trying to see here, like what is, I guess, do we go back to Messi? I assume they've been, well, no, let's do somebody. Cole Bassett. How many limited Cole Bassets are for this season? 272. And then how about Joey Veerman? 534. Like we're literally barely halfway. And the season's over. Like we're not going to get any more. And so there's so many more limiteds that they can do. But I don't think that you can really like compare everything until they are like minting everything. And then you're like, oh, I want to, I play rare now, but like maybe I want to go to super rare. Is it better? And it's like treating it totally differently complicates it a little bit. Oh, Peter showed up a few minutes ago. Peter, you got a lot of work to do. You should just go back to the beginning later and figure out what your homework is. Carol said, I'm wondering if some good La Liga 2 cards will have the Leeds United effect this season due to not being minted. What effect is that, though? Just like they're good scoring cards and not everybody had them? I don't think it's that different. Peter, Andrew was able to show his G Sheet skills. Did I show it? Oh, I did. Did I actually show that prize pool? I didn't show anything. Oh, but spreadsheets. I was supposed to talk about that. Ryan said, second division saved the issue with cards getting relegated into nothingness, though, which helped people maybe more than they realized. That's a great point. Like, that's a phenomenal point. And I'm not sure they would necessarily like cover those without issuing cards, because again, that's more cards now that are competing for rewards that they can't give away, which obviously we have that problem now, although there are plenty of contender cards that can be rewarded. But yeah. Sorry, yes, Peter's surely like an Excel guy. It's the world's worst tool. That's Google Sheets, that is. Halogen said, won't the women's game just mean more licenses, aka more cards minted? Will there be demand enough to support the problem is already too many licenses, right? I'm not getting into that. Andy and I actually talked about that on a Sorare Andrews a few weeks ago, which was a very reasonable conversation. That basically the way that that all the different leagues are segregated now, that you could build like a women's division league and have them separated, and they're kind of their own game. So we'll see. Toby said, in theory, if the company grows, they could have limited cash rewards stagnate and say they go from 15 million to 17.5, then those extra 2.5 go towards rare through unique. Obviously depends on them actually growing. Yeah, I think that's right. It just, we need to see what happens. Vita said, you need those leagues that allow people to scout players before they join the big five, and then the leagues for players before they join those leagues. And then, yeah, I mean, you're right. But like, I think if you're starting fresh, you don't need those leagues. I think you can just wait until those players show up. Like, we all knew, everybody who plays Sorare like knew that Cody Gakpo was like fantastic. And they were like, see, I've had his card. Like when he went to Liverpool, but it's like, if we just had to wait until he was at Liverpool, I'm not sure it really matters. Skazmo said, based on the last 3.5 years, it's hard to trust they have any ambition to grow the top end of the market. Patience is wearing thin. And Ryan said, oh boy, Twitter's going to be mad about that comment. What did I say? What was the comment? Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. Payne said, cards that aren't currently minted, but that are good and competitive cards in the secondary market's last stand, meaning it's one of the few places that they can't nerf the secondary market. Carol said, yeah, Reuter and Somerville skyrocketed in price after relegation and a couple of great scores. Yeah, sorry, my comments, my chat stream is all messed up here. Johnny said, less cards increase value. We all know this. Then their sell-on fees will be higher with higher value in cards. Fewer cards don't increase values. Like, it's one of those things that like we think is the case, and on the scale that we're at, it really just doesn't happen. We have some like one-off situation, like Dennis Vavro, who's like long been like so overpriced because he doesn't have that many cards, and then he started playing well. But like for the most part, like not having more La Liga 2 cards doesn't make every other card on the platform more valuable. Ryan said, if they had an ideal, it'd be top 5 leagues and then add some others once the game is thriving. Right. Like they would go the other way. And they would make sure that those other leagues are very separate from the big 5, which is what they're doing right now. Halogen, what happens in 10 years when Lamine Yamal is in his prime years with 6,000 minted cards in limited? Will there be enough players and rewards to win to keep his price up? So there will not be enough rewards. No, at least not card rewards, which is why they now need to do this Essence thing. But that's always been the case. Like we've always known that at some point, like the good news was going to be when they run out of card rewards, because it means we have enough users on the platform and enough people really wanted to play this game, and they would have to figure out something else. And so these boxes are kind of the first step in that. But like limited's not there, but like rare and super is kind of there already. He just said that was a bit of sarcasm. We only need those leagues because we have those leagues. FPL plays with only Premier League and they're doing fine. Yeah. They also make no money though. Vita said, is he overpriced or over-evaluated? Who are we talking about? Peter said, people generally have a tolerance for how much they can or are willing to pay, and then essence becomes an issue. Yeah, maybe. Spreadsheets. This is the last thing I'm going to say. And I'm glad Vita and Peter are here because they are the stars of this show. Oh, Vavro, yes. He is way overpriced. He might be over-evaluated too, but he's way overpriced. So after the announcement yesterday, and we were talking on stream, and trying to think of who replied to this tweet. Blue Tomatoes, maybe? Was like, man, I'd love to hear what like Peter and MPen have to say about this. And so Peter's coming on Monday. MPen's on holiday, or he would have joined us. And so I knew Peter like dove into the numbers right away and started like figuring out whatever he figures out. And then Vita today shared the spreadsheet with me, and he was like, hey, this is how I'm looking at it. And he was like, how is Peter looking? Have you seen anything from Peter? And I was like, oh, yes, actually. And I realized that Peter, Vita, and I were all kind of like looking at different things of the prize pool, or at least we were all looking at the same thing, but totally differently. And that's sort of one of the big things about an announcement like this. And Scosmo, this is where I'll push back on you, where you were like, they should have announced everything, that we haven't even gotten through the prize pools yet of, is this good? How does it compare? And if you add on like all of the box percentages and all of the special weeklies and everything, like I think I have no problem with them announcing everything that they did yesterday while still leaving special weeklies and box percentages until next week, because there's a lot to get through as it is. Like, would we like to have it all at the same time? Maybe, but I kind of like also this idea of dripping it out with tons of time. Like, I don't think that there's anything that they're going to announce with the boxes where we're all just like, it's not going to, like I'm changing my whole plan because it turns out that to get 50 essence is only 1% instead of 1.5%. Like, we're not doing that. Scosma, I think you're right about the graphics, that they should have had boxes on the graphics. And Peter, a CSV about everything would have been great. You're right. Manually typing in and then having to refresh to make sure that the graphic hasn't changed. But anyway, so it was really interesting because I think Peter and Vita, to a certain extent, I think they don't necessarily focus on like first place prizes, but it matters to them. And that kind of stuff doesn't matter to me. Let me rephrase. I don't focus on it as much because I don't feel like planning to win is the best way for me to play. Obviously, I would love to win, but I know Vita was looking at essentially the total amount that they were giving out in each competition, each game week. And that's how he was looking to see, like, what are they prioritizing? And we kind of already know that they're prioritizing the Prem, La Liga, Bundesliga, and Champion. And then it's kind of like everyone else. And what I did was I was kind of like looking to see like where the differences were, where I knew, like, we know that the podium prizes in Contender and Challenger are different. But it then turns out that actually most of the payouts are the same in Division 1. And I like barely got going on this. And this is kind of the problem, is that I'm manually having to type in like each one of these things. And I mean, not actually, I copy and paste, don't worry. Sorry for the G sheet, Peter. But I was pretty much looking at this, like Challenger and Contender, which is generally where my cards are. And I'd only gotten through Limited. And frankly, I'm not even going to go any further. Like it's not worth it. But it was like, all right, so for Challenger and Contender Limited, it's a $200 difference for first place, second place, and third place. Obviously, Challenger gets a little more, and fourth. But then, like, you get here, 8th place, you're like, oh, it's the same. And it's also half of Champion. Half felt a little like you get it, but you're kind of like, man, only half. But if you just look at these two columns, like, they're actually quite the same for a lot. Like, all the way down until you get to right here, 71st through something, where in Challenger you get 15 and in Contender you get 12, but then they actually meet back up at 8 and they pay down to 200. This is Division 1, by the way, in Limited. And it was like, boy, that's a really weird decision to just like the 71st through 100th is where you're like, this is what will make the contender difference. And again, obviously the top is different, but I don't know. But it was like, that's what I was looking at. And Vita like wasn't looking at that at all because he's just like, no, or maybe he was, I don't know. But like, and Peter was doing a whole bunch of things, the distribution of where the payouts actually are, which actually is one that I looked at. He just said, are you really, really duplicating all? I mean, I'm not like duplicating it. No. I mean, I kind of am actually. But like, that's what I was looking at. And it's kind of interesting that so much that they announced yesterday, nobody really knows. Like, I mean, obviously if you're somebody who plays Champion and you're just like, all right, what's in season going to cost? And so that's what Vita was doing. He said, I mostly wanted to know what to buy in 2 weeks. That like, if the prizes are good right away in something specific, then should I do that? And what can I win? And I was just looking at something, and other people were just very different, what they're looking at. And so the spreadsheet thing is because like we all had spreadsheets going. Peter's probably in something much fancier, apparently Tableau. But it was just kind of different ways to visualize what we were trying to analyze after yesterday's announcement. Lairdinho, is there a good game week calendar by anyone in the way Vita used to offer? Vita, do you want to tell him, or do we just keep that to ourselves for a little bit longer? That's probably where, if Ryan had tweeted that, we'd have like an eyes emoji, retweet, repost. Classic Nikola style. Anyway. Scosmo, out of nowhere, remember when we were getting Bundesliga moments? Whatever happened to that? I don't know. This is just seltzer. Flavored sparkling water. Nothing crazy. Vita, maybe a little bit longer, but you should be able to leak the matchup page soon. Ooh, let's go. I've said it a few times on streams, but like we've got some super cool stuff coming soon. Oh, speaking of that, I mean, not of that at all. But there was a tweet somewhere, and I was curious if everybody did I retweet that? Here we go. There was a Twitter account. I'm going to pull it up here, or a tweet, excuse me, asking about people using sorare data premium. Let me put it in the chat. I'm just curious if everybody, if you guys want to go reply to that, if you were on Twitter or X. Oh, wow, doubled. I'm just curious, mostly in the comments, because for those of you who don't use it, I'm super curious why you don't. And if it's just price, like I get it. I know that there's like, if you have $85 worth of sorare cards, there's no reason to pay 100. Well, I actually would disagree that there's no reason, but I realize that at some point people are not going to have enough in the game to like warrant sorare data. It's just fine. We'll keep on winning. But anyway. Just Heat 14, hard to analyze without knowing how many lineups will be in each competition. If I've got a 10% chance at $10, but 15% chance at $8, I'm going for the latter. So like we'll never know how many lineups are in each competition. Like we can estimate for sure, but you'll never really know until it's open. Andy said, Laird admitted to me the other day that the orange drink is actually Faygo and he's a closet juggalo. I have no idea what that means. But I put it on here because I'm sure you think it's funny. Should I have my Medium post link to another Medium post? Do I get extra credit? Yeah. Rasko Masaki said, I love the celebration cards they did last season. Those are cool. Yeah, those are cool. And yeah, I assume something's coming to the back of cards. Yeah, it seems silly to say something like that and then not do anything. But I don't know. I think the cards right now are fine. I like the backs. They're kind of shiny and it's fine one. I don't know if I have a, let's see. It's our good friend Paolo. Shout out to Surface to Air Missile. I mean, I don't know. It feels like a high-end product with that face kind of looking at us. And, who knows where the light is coming from, but I think they're kind of cool. Shout out Paolo Diaz for turning down the Qatari transfer, or Saudi. I don't remember where he was. I don't know. Vita said, if we say in the May game week in Champion there were 100 lineups in D1, how many will there be in game week 502? So I think it's less about estimating how many are in 502 and how many are in like 522. Like during the peak part of the season when like everybody who wants cards has them. How many then? Right. Depends on how many are for sale. Yeah, I mean, obviously you should look at 502 because there are not going to be that many people competing. Ryan said the sides of the 3D cards are the best, especially with the NBA and MLB logos. I agree with that. Yeah, those are really cool. I'll show you guys, at least for MLB or NBA. Did I buy any? Are these the recent ones? Yeah. I don't even remember winning this card. Yeah, like the NBA logo there, or it's like up here. I think the Players Association, is that what they put? Yeah, it's kind of a weird logo. And baseball looks like this. Yeah, with the MLB logo, Sorare on the bottom, and then MLB players. Yeah, they're cool. Very cool cards. All right, I think I've gone long enough today. I don't think we actually solved anything, but Ryan said there are no Liga MX cards at Spin. Yeah, not yet. Maybe October, 6 months after the season started. Thank you to everybody for coming. If you could please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Shout out to Quinny, who was here earlier. The Nanzo said, I just won Trent as a tier 2. These prize pools are messed up. Don't worry, we'll fix them. Like, are we complaining that you like luck boxed a tier 2 Trent? I mean, obviously they're broken, but you'll never be able to use it in season, so it's worthless now. Sorry, Nanzo. Anyway, thank you to everybody for coming. If you could please like the stream, it's always really appreciated. If you are watching on Twitch, if you could, subscribe there, that's helpful for a ton of things that I have up here that will come in the future. And so, yeah. Oh, wait, sorry. One last one. We just said, I assume 30% will be there on the first game week with the logarithmic progression. 10 game weeks later, that's about 90% of what was last year. Banking on a 20% increase year to year could update to 50. Monday, Peter will be here to tell us whether we are right or wrong about our opinions about the prize pools. And Vita, maybe you should come too. 7 p.m. Central Europe time. And Bob Franklin, congratulations on your new Thibaut Courtois rare. That's big time. Big time. Anyway, thank you to everybody. Have a great weekend. And we have one more game week left, at least to make lineups for, before the Danish Superliga returns.